all of our marketing, our events, our pop-bys, our pop-ins, our social media, all of those kinds of things. And then we have a runner who works about 5 hours a week, who basically is a newer agent in the office who just drops stuff off for us. So she'll drop off lock boxes and open house brochures and gifts and all of those kinds of things. So we have total about 50 hours of admin help a week to support 175 transactions. That's not a lot of admin help. And part of what I love about using Realvolve, I'm also a Realvolve customer. I've been a Realvolve customer for about 8 years, is that I'm able to automate so much in the transaction that there's not a ton left over for my assistants to do. So I'm able to support 175 transactions a year based on just about 40 to 50 hours of admin help. So by using Realvolve and automating so much stuff, I'm able to keep my expenses much lower because I don't need as much support staff to do stuff. So they kind of help with everything behind the scenes. And then there's the 2 other realtors on my team. So the way that we work is that we assign 2 realtors to every client. So it's always myself that's assigned to every client, and then either David or Lauren, who are the 2 other realtors on my team. And they handle all the boots on the ground. So the showings, the inspections, the final walkthroughs, et cetera. I handle everything that can be done essentially remotely. So I take care of like new client intakes. I do pricing analysis. I do all the contract write-ups, contract negotiations, inspection negotiations, all of those kinds of things. So I can work from anywhere. So right now, today, I'm in Las Vegas at my mom's house, working from here for the next week, and it doesn't really affect my business. Everything can still happen because I'm doing all of the things remotely. So that's essentially kind of how we work in a nutshell. My business philosophy has always been to love on your clients and they will love on you, to really provide white glove service, to go above and beyond and give people a very memorable experience and make them feel like I care about them, because people want to work with people who they care about. And so, that really resonates with people. And I feel like, especially in today's world where we're all online and we feel so disconnected from other people, even though we're more connected than ever, that it's unusual to find somebody in your life, a professional in your life, who you feel like really cares about you. And if you can make your clients feel like they really care about you, they will love you back, and they will want to give you all of their future business. They will want to give you the referrals of their friends and their families because they feel like you actually really care about them. And I do actually care about my clients. I'm not just making it up, right? Like, I really do care about them. I want them to be happy and succeed. And I want this to be a relationship, not transactional based where it stops after the transaction ends. Okay. And I think in order to do that, you often have to over communicate with your clients. If you look at surveys from buyers and sellers, the number one complaint that they have is that they don't have enough communication from their realtor, particularly after the transaction ends. Most of us are really bad after the transaction ends. We maybe contact our clients for a couple of months and then we stop contacting them. If you look at the buyer and seller survey that comes out every year from the National Association of Realtors, this last year, people on average are planning to stay in their house now for 13 to 15 years. So they don't need you 6 months after the transaction ends. They need you 13 to 15 years later. So you need to have a follow-up plan to stay in contact with them for 13 to 15 years, or they are going to forget your name. No matter how great of a job you did, you have to stay in contact with them. And that's one of the ways Realvolve can really help you, and kind of what I'm going to dive in today. So 88% of all homeowners surveyed said they would use their real estate agent again when they bought or sold a home, but only 12% of homeowners actually did. So there's been a huge disconnect between the number of realtors who are planning to use their realtor and the number of homeowners who actually did. And so to me, that's the problem that we need to solve. How do you get that 12% to be up more the 88% route? Because if you can do that, to me, that's where you find incredible growth in your business. And that's really what we're going to be focused on talking about today. So before we do that, we had a couple of quick polls that we wanted to launch for everybody. So we're going to put those up on the screen. So right now we want to get a sense of, where do a majority of your clients come from? Are they online, referrals, repeat business, paid sources? Are you buying leads on Zillow, Realtor.com, et cetera? Are they coming from your networking, your sphere? And then what's your CRM situation currently? Are you actively using one today? In my opinion, you should be. Are you using one from your brokerage? I don't love those because then if you leave and go to another brokerage, you can't take it with you and they have all your data. So I'm a big proponent of getting a standalone CRM that only you use, that's not connected to your brokerage, so that you can leave and go somewhere else. Do you have one, but you're not really using it? I think that's the majority of realtors, or do you just not have one at all, right? And I would put if you're only using Excel as your CRM, you do not have one. Excel does not count as an actual CRM, okay? So fill that out. We're gonna give everybody another couple of seconds to fill that out, and then we will show the results online so that we can see kind of where everybody's coming from as we dive into my tips for you to grow your database. All right, Sam, is that enough time? Should we put the results up online? Okay, so referrals and repeat business, 61% of you, the vast majority of you, that is where your business is coming from. And in my opinion, that is where your business should come from. When I talk to top agents around the country, typically 80 to 90% of their business is coming from their sphere. So referral and repeat business, or their sphere who is giving them leads, okay? That's where you should be focusing your time and attention on, in my opinion, okay? Most people find paid sources are a very small percentage of their business. So I don't know why we spend so much time and money on paid sources when 80 to 90% of our business is coming from free sources, by doing a good job with our clients, doing events with them, texting them, all of those kinds of things, right? So then as far as your CRM situation, look at you guys. You guys are awesome. 61% of you are actively using a CRM. That is the highest percentage I've ever seen teaching any of these webinars in the past. So that is awesome. Okay. That probably means that in general, you guys are kicking ass a lot more compared to a lot of other agents, because most agents are not using one. So let's dive into kind of why you guys are here today. Okay. So CRM, why is having a good database important, right? It allows you to stay in contact with past, current, and prospective people. It allows you to automate administrative tasks, which frees you to focus up on money-making tasks, right? It provides a consistent level of service. So one of the things I like about using a CRM like Realvolve is that I'm never going to have a situation where somebody comes to me and says, hey, I didn't like that inspector that you recommended, and so I'm going to sue you, because I would say, wait a minute, I actually recommended 3 inspectors to you. You opened that email on April 12th at 2:48 p.m. and you chose one inspector out of those 3. So I don't think you're going to have a lawsuit or a leg to stand on, right? So it allows you to treat everybody the same, which helps protect you in terms of fair housing, steering, redlining, et cetera, because you're giving the same information to everybody as long as that information is not violating those rules. And it protects you legally because you're giving people options. So you should always be giving people 3 lender options, 3 inspector options, et cetera, right? More importantly, though, it gives your clients a superior customer service experience, because the number one complaint is that they do not hear from their realtor enough. So by using a CRM like Realvolve, where you can automate communications to clients, you're able to proactively give them information so that they're never wondering what comes next. My feeling is if a client says to me, what comes next, I have failed and I have not done a good job, because I should have been proactively sending them information about what comes next. An example of that would be the day before the inspection through Realvolve. I have an email that goes out to the buyers reminding them the inspection is tomorrow at this time. Here's what happens in an inspection. Please feel free to bring a tape measure so you can measure for furniture placement and room sizes. Bring your camera so you can take pictures of the insides of closets. Wear slip-on shoes because you're probably going to be taking your shoes on and off a lot. Please do not bring food into somebody else's house. We cannot eat in somebody else's house, right? At the same time, I have an automated email that goes out to the sellers the day before the inspection saying, hey, don't forget the inspections tomorrow at this day and time. We're going to run the dishwasher, so put some soap in it if you want your dishes to get clean. We are going to run the washing machine, so don't have any clothes in it. Or if you have clothes in it, put soap in it, right? We need clear access to the electrical panel, all of the utilities, right? Think of all the problems that you've had. By communicating ahead of time, you can avoid having those problems if you warn people what it is you need them to do and know ahead of time. I also have an email that goes out to the inspector, reminding the inspector about the inspection so he shows up and doesn't forget. I have an email that goes out to the listing agent, reminding them of the inspection, right? So anytime I have a problem in a real estate transaction, I look back and I say, what communication could I have done ahead of time to head off of this problem? And I add it into Realvolve, okay? So that's the kind of stuff that your CRM should be really helping you with, right? Also, having that level of communication is going to set you apart from other realtors in your market because it's going to be different from how the other realtors work, right? And it's going to help you with work-life balance. I'm able to go out of town and go on vacation and know that my clients are hearing from me every single day about what comes next because it's automated through my CRM every day. And it's not something I have to worry about or think about, okay? So these are the two things that I could not run my business without: my website, which I'll show you in a second, and my CRM. And if I'm going to be honest, my cell phone, right? Really those three things, right? I have to have those to run my business on a daily basis. My business would not work without those things, and I would not be as successful. Everything else is superfluous. I could basically get rid of everything else other than my cell phone, and I could still do 175 transactions a year and have a life at the same time, because I work from 8 a.m. until 3 p.m. when my son gets off the bus. That is it. I typically don't work nights. I don't work weekends. I have very, very good work-life balance, and that is because I'm organized. I have systems. Everything is automated as much as possible so that I can have a life. Because I think in real estate, oftentimes we think we have to hustle. We think we have to work 24 hours a day, and that is not true. If you are organized and have systems, you can have a life and still make a lot of money in this business. And I know because I am able to do both, okay? But you have to be organized to get there. So what do I look for in a CRM? Before I started Realvolve, I really sat down and thought about, what do I need in a CRM? And I needed a CRM that was both a CRM and a transaction management system. I needed it to be able to tell me all the tasks that needed to get done and do all the email communication with a client. I also needed it to be able to automate tasks based on milestone dates in the contract. The CRM that I had before Realvolve did not do that, and so it did not work well for me. All I could put in for that CRM, I had contactually before Compass bought it, was the start date. So I could say I needed this to happen 14 days after the start date, and 21 days, and 28 days, and 35. But the problem is that doesn't work for a real estate transaction, because we might have a cash deal that's going to close in 14 days. We might have a conventional loan that's going to close in 30 days. We might have an FHA that's going to take 60 days, or we might have new construction that's going to take a year. I needed a system that was robust enough to handle all of those so that I could just put in what the inspection date was, and appraisal date, and final walkthrough date, and clear to close date, and closing date, and it would adjust all of the communications based on those timelines, right? And most CRMs do not do that in real estate, which is why I find most CRMs in real estate are not effective for being able to automate your communication, which to me is the most important part of a CRM. So that's why I chose to go with Realvolve. So who should be in your database? Everybody, right? But I think you need people categorized and systematized. So these are the categories that I have: prospective buyers, prospective sellers, current buyers, current sellers. That way I can send them out targeted information based on where they are in the transaction, okay? And you will get a copy of these slides at the end. You'll get a copy of the presentation as well. From there, I have 7 workflows set up in my Realvolve. So I have a prospective buyer workflow. That's somebody that I meet at like an open house who's not quite ready to buy yet, but they might be ready to buy in 6 months or a year or something like that. So that workflow is a 2-year workflow that reaches out to them every month with helpful information as they're thinking about getting ready to buy a house. So are estimates accurate? How far in advance of buying should they start looking? How can they get how much is earnest money? How much do they need to put for their down payment? Can they cancel the contract after we go under contract and get their money back, right? Think of all the questions first-time home buyers have. That's what should be in your prospective buyer workflow. Then I have a current buyer workflow. So that workflow is somebody who says, yes, Shay, I want to work with you. I'm ready to go out and start to do showings, and let's find me a home. And so that's going to be more tactile questions that are applicable in that situation. So what's an as-is offer? What's a foreclosure? What's a short sale? what are my options in a highest and best situation, right? Think about the information that people need when they're actively searching, and that's what should be in that workflow proactively going out to them. Then I have the buyer under contract workflow. So that's a big workflow. That's a beast. It's like 111 steps, something like that. And it takes them from under contract through close. Okay. So it's all the email communication they need to know, like, hey, tomorrow's your appraisal. You don't need to come to the appraisal, but here's what happens in an appraisal. And here's what happens if your appraisal comes in low. Here's what happens if your appraisal comes in high, etc. Right? At the same time, it's also the transaction management piece. So it's the reminder for us to order the home warranty. It's the reminder for us to warn the clients about wire fraud, right? So it's a combination of both of those things. Then on the sell side, we have our prospective seller workflow. So again, that's somebody I meet who's maybe not ready to sell today, but maybe ready to sell in a year. And I want to start to talk to them about repairs they could be doing now, paint colors they could be painting now, stuff they can be doing proactively to get ready for when they are actually ready to sell their house. Then I have the seller current workflow. So that is a seller who is actively working with me. It takes them through all the listing paperwork, getting on the market, what they should do to prepare for showings, what they should do to prepare for open houses, how they should expect us to give them feedback, how many showings they should expect, all of those kinds of things until we get under contract. Then they move to our seller under contract workflow, which again is about 110 steps. That takes them from under contract through close, email communication and transaction management piece that we need to be doing so nothing falls through the cracks. Then I have that closed client workflow that is a 15-year follow-up program with them, reaching out to them once a month with information on maintenance tips, ways to save money on their home, etc., so that I am front and center when they want to buy or sell again, or when a friend or a colleague says to them or a family member, hey, I'm looking for a realtor. Do you know anybody? I want to make sure that they say, you should talk to my realtor, Shay. She's awesome. Okay. So this is what my Realvolve dashboard looks like. These are my workflows on the side. You can see this is my buyer under contract workflow. So it does have the option to do a few things after the start date, but then from there you can say you want this to go out a day before inspection or a day after inspection or a day before mortgage contingency deadline. To me, that's what sets Realvolve apart from the other CRMs, is that ability to customize based on dates in the real estate transaction. And what I like about this too is that if you do have an assistant, you can assign tasks to the assistant or multiple assistants rather than you. So I don't actually do anything in my Realvolve. All the email communications come out from me, but anything that actually has to be done gets assigned to my TC or my marketing person or the runner or whomever it is. That way I can only work from 8 to 3 and I don't have to deal with all of this other stuff, right? So it allows you to be very targeted in how the work gets done. And then every morning I get an email that shows any emails that are going to go out from me. So say I have a deal that's falling apart, I can open that email and be like, you know what? I don't want this email to go out today because I think this deal might fall apart. I can skip it to the next day or something like that. And then for my assistants, it's basically a list of exactly what they need to do that day. So it's basically their to-do list for the whole entire day. Okay. If you only have time to do one workflow, I think that closed client workflow is the most important one. In my opinion, that one should be 15 years and it should be helpful tips for your clients. Okay. As a realtor, your clients do not need recipes from you. I can go online and figure out how to make beef stew or the world's best chocolate chip cookie with Google these days or Pinterest, okay? I do not need that from you. What I need from my realtor is tips on real estate and my home. So if it's going to be really cold, I need to know how to protect my pipes from freezing and what I do if my pipes freeze. I need to know about how to file my homeowner's exemption or appeal my property taxes. I need maintenance reminders because people these days don't know they need to change their furnace filter. They don't know how to do anything in their house. So tell them those things. Tell them they need to rod their sewer line once a year and why that's important, right? Have them claim their home on Zillow so it can't be used in a rental scam. Those are the kinds of things that as a realtor, you should be communicating to your clients to help them and for you to stay top of mind, okay? So once you have figured out kind of what you want your workflows to be, then I would say you need to sit down and write a list for each workflow of all the email communications that should go out to clients in that particular workflow. And then all the transaction management pieces, all the tasks that need to get done in that workflow as well, right? Because it's a combination of those two. Then you can start to create your workflows, start to figure out when those things should happen, who they should be assigned to. Should it be an email? Should it come out automatically? Should it be a text message? Should it be a phone call? Whatever it is, you can start to put it in here so that you can really systematize everything that you're doing. So you can see these are some examples of this is my, I think, buyer under this is my closed client workflow. So you can see some of these in here, right? So we have check-ins that go in here that automatically go out to them, 115 days after the start date, just saying things like, hey, I wanted to check in, see how are you liking the new house? How are you liking the neighbors? Have you met any of the neighbors yet? Those kinds of things, right? So you can have some basic check-ins, but then you can also have some other things in here on how to save money on interest. They should be cleaning their dryer vents, right? So that they don't have a fire start. They should be changing their air filters. How can they get rid of PMI, right? At what point can they do that? Reminders that it's their home anniversary, so you should be contacting them for that. Reminders to get their service furnace, their AC furnace, their air ducts cleaned, lubricating their garage door, right? Like these are all of the things that are in my closed client workflow. So that takes you about the first 3 years of it. It's 15 years after that. And this is where ChatGPT can be really helpful because it can be overwhelming to set all of this stuff up. So if you come up with the topics for the emails, you can go into something like ChatGPT and say, hey, I want a 2-paragraph email on how often you should be checking your roof, or how often you should be rotting your sewer or whatever it is, and have ChatGPT come up with that content. And then all you have to do is go through it and make sure it sounds like you and edit it. And then you can post it on your website, right? In my opinion, email should always come from you, right? You want that relationship with the client to be from you. But if you have an assistant, the task should be assigned to the assistant, not to you, so that you don't have to worry about doing those things. So then you go in and you create an email template for each category. Ideally, I like the email templates to be short. I don't want the emails to be more than one paragraph, 2 paragraphs at most, because I don't want people to have to scroll on their phone to read my emails. If they're going to be longer than that, then I think they need to have a hyperlink in them that goes through to your website so that people can click on it for more information, okay? And start thinking about other things you can automate. One of the things that we automate is our closing gifts. So we have an email that goes out to all of our clients about 3 weeks before closing that essentially says, hey, we want you to pick your closing gift. We will give you 4 hours of handyman work from our handyman. We will send our cleaning person over to clean for 4 hours. We will send our photographer over to do a photo shoot in your house. We will get you a gift card to your favorite store, or we will throw a housewarming party where we provide the food, you provide the booze. Which of those things would you like? Let us know. Almost everybody picks the handyman. So when they pick the handyman, we're able to pull up an email template in Realvolve and say, we're so excited you picked our handyman. Here's an introduction to him. Here's how this works, and he'll send us the bill, right? And so it makes doing closing gifts very easy, and our clients like that they're able to pick their own closing gift, okay? For each of these things, we have pre-negotiated with each person that we will pay them $120. Okay, so it's $120 for the cleaning person, handyman, photographer, etc. For our gift card, we do $125. If they want the handyman to stay longer, they are welcome to do so. They just pay him a $40 per hour for the additional hours beyond the 4 hours, right? So once you start to set up these systems, you can really start to think about what other things can you automate as well. In order for this to work, in addition to having a really great CRM like Realvolve, I think you also need a great website, because to me, the website should be the hub of your business, and then the spokes are all the content going out, pushing back to your website. So, your CRM is going to be constantly pushing content to everybody that's going to push them back to your website. That does a couple of things. It gives your website really high SEO rankings, because I have thousands of people going to my website every single month because of all the email communications with hyperlinks that we're sending out. Also, 2 out of 3 potential customers are going to research you extensively before they decide whether they are going to work with you or not. The 3 things that they are looking for when they research you, number 1 is website. If you do not have a good website with a lot of content on it, they may choose not to work with you, okay? They're also looking for your social media sites to make sure you're not crazy and that you're active. They're also looking for reviews, again, to make sure you're not crazy and that people had a good experience working with you. So to me, those are the 3 things you need: reviews, social media sites, and a good local website. On your website, I think you need to have a resource page with all of your service providers, your electricians, plumbers, etc. You also need to have a blog where you're answering frequently asked questions from clients, okay? And I think you should have the home buying and selling process with separate steps for each portion of that process to explain them to them. You're welcome to check out my website, buyselllovechicago.com, where you can see kind of all of that information on there. This is what my website looks like. Realvolve has FirePoint that they use for websites, so you're welcome to talk with them about that to set up a website. Whatever website you choose to use, I think it needs to be mobile responsive, meaning that when you pull it up on your cell phone or tablet, it's going to shrink that screen to fit. Because I don't remember the stat off the top of my head, but it's like 80% of people are looking at real estate websites on their cell phones or tablets, so it has to be mobile responsive. In my opinion, you are never going to compete with a website like Zillow or Redfin for home searches. Those sites are always going to be better, in my opinion, because they're multi-billion, million-dollar businesses and focused on making these beautiful websites, right? Where you are different, though, is you can give local content for how real estate transactions work in your market and what your local market is like. They cannot do that to a good degree on national sites, okay? So break down for your buyers the whole buying side of the process, exactly what happens each step of the way. When they have to book their inspection, who are your favorite inspectors? What should they expect in an inspection? How much should it cost, right? On the sell side, break down every step in your local market so that they know how a real estate transaction works there, okay? Then from there, and you can take a look at these, start to think about frequently asked questions you should be answering for clients. So are estimates accurate? What do you do? What are your options in a highest and best situation? What does buying as is mean? So when a client says to me, hey, I saw on this property online, it says that they're selling it as is. What does that mean? I don't have to have a 10-minute conversation with my client now about what as is means. I say, hey, hold on one second. I'm going to send you a link to my website where I explain that. Then if you have follow-up questions, let me know. I get that link. I send it to them. And then from there, they're able to read through it. If they have follow-up questions, they can reach back out to me and I'm happy to answer those questions. But usually I've saved myself 10 or 15 minutes of my time. And it's nice because it's in writing, so clients can go back and review it and read it. If they aren't sure of something, they can share it with maybe their mom or dad, if their mom or dad or their husband or whomever are going to be involved in that transaction as well. So you're not having to have that same conversation with multiple people. So answer frequently asked questions on your website, okay? And then once you get your CRM set up and you've got your website set up, you should start those workflows. So we assign people to workflows based on where they are in the transaction, right? So if they are a buyer looking for a home, they start in our current buyer workflow. Once they go under contract, they move to our under contract workflow, okay? That way, the information that they are getting is always targeted to exactly where they need it to be. Then from there, I also think you should be reaching out to them on their birthdays. So you should have a birthday workflow. We send them an automatic JPEG on their birthday. And also in my to-do list, it reminds me to call or text them and wish them a happy birthday, okay? We also have the same thing for home anniversary reminders. So they get an email saying, happy home anniversary. It reminds me to contact them as well, okay? One of the other things that we've been able to automate is the buying and selling intake process. So I took this idea from my friends Alice and Seth Daly, who are realtors in the Baltimore area. These are Google forms that we have embedded in our website. So if you go to buyselllovechicago.com, you click on buyers, you can see our ready to buy survey, or if you click on sellers, you can see the ready to sell survey or our ready to buy and sell survey for people who are going to buy and sell with us. So when I have a new client who reaches out to me, usually those come in via, email, text, or phone call. I don't ever pick up the phone if it's somebody I don't know, because I just don't have the time or interest in having an hour-long phone conversation with somebody about they want a 2-bedroom, 2-bath house, right? Like that's a waste of my time. I can be more efficient than that. So I will have them leave a message, and then usually within 2 to 3 minutes, I will respond back via text. If they've texted or if they've called, and I'll say, thank you so much for your voicemail. I'm in the middle of a meeting, so I couldn't pick up, but you're really important to me. Is it possible for me to get your email address? I'm going to send you an email survey that I want you to fill out. about what you're looking for in your next home, number of bedrooms, bathrooms, your budget, your timeline, all of those kinds of things. And I'm going to send you a link to my calendar so that you can schedule a call on my calendar for a time that works for you. So I can set aside, 45 minutes to an hour to talk to you. That way I can talk to them on my time frame, and I'm not having to pick up the phone while I'm in the middle of dinner with my son and spend an hour on the phone with somebody. Like, that doesn't work for my life, right? I want them to talk to me during a time that works for me. Okay. Again, I'll carve out time later in the day for them if I have to, but in general, they need to work within my parameters. So I'll send them this link. They fill out the survey. They're able to get a time on my calendar for that day or the next day at a time that works for me. And then we can hop on, and in 5 minutes, I can go through this survey and have a very good understanding of what it is that they're looking for. So on that follow-up call, I can ask them follow-up questions. They can ask questions of me, but I'm not wasting my time asking them how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, do you want a ranch or a 2-story? Like, all of that can be done on their own time in the survey. So this allows me to get back to them very quickly. They get the service that they need because they're getting the link to the survey and a link to my calendar to get scheduled. And it makes me seem very professional against the other agents in my office because nobody else is doing this. So it really helps me stand apart. So I win a ton of clients this way because they'll say to me on the client intake call, you were the only one who really had a system and a process, and it was so professional and it was very impressive that we want to work with you even though we were interviewing other agents. And we have the same thing on the sell side as well. Okay. Then think about, in addition to kind of the standard things you need for a transaction, think about one-off emails that you need, oftentimes based on weather, that you should be blasting out to everybody in your database. So examples of that would be if it's going to be really cold and you're worried about the pipes freezing, you should have an email that says, hey gang, I'm worried about your pipes freezing tomorrow. Here's what you need to do to keep your pipes from freezing. Here's what you do if they do freeze. If you want to go above and beyond like we do, in that email, we say, if you are out of town, let us know and we will come over and we will trickle the water in your pipes. We'll open your cabinet doors. We'll turn your heat up. We'll take care of doing all of those things for you to protect your home, as long as we have a way to get into your house, right? So you can do those kinds of things for them. During heavy rains, send a warning out saying, hey, you're worried about flooding. They need to make sure their drains are clear. They need to make sure their sump pump is working, all of those kinds of things. One of our most popular one is we recorded a video on the 10 things that they should know about homeowners insurance and make sure they have in their homeowners insurance. I'm a huge proponent. I think all of my clients with basements should have flood insurance and sewer backup, right? Even if they're not in a flood zone. So I talk to my clients about that a lot. We have emails that go talk to them about if you're thinking of remodeling, kind of here's the biggest bang for your buck on projects. If it hailed really heavily, we'll send an email out being like, I'm worried about hail damage to your roof. Here are the 3 recommended roofers you should call to get your home checked for hail damage, right? So think about those one-off emails that you can be putting in your CRM as well to better service your clients. Then you should have those email templates for everything saved in Realvolve. I also think it's important for emails that you send out on a daily basis. I have a couple of emails saved as email templates in my email program. So if you use Gmail, if you use Microsoft Outlook, all of those have an email template section where you can save emails that you use regularly. So all of my email templates are in Realvolve, okay? But in my Outlook program, which is my email provider, I have an offer attached email. I also have a multiple offer attached email so that when I'm sending an offer, I just pull this email up, I change the date, how much they're doing for the down payment, et cetera, attach my offer, and off it goes to make my life easier, right? I also have lender introductions saved in here because I send so many lender introductions out. So think about emails that you're sending out on a daily basis. You may want those in your CRM, but you may also want to create them as email templates in whatever your email program is to save yourself a bunch of time. I'm also a big fan of doing newsletters. Realvolve actually has a monthly newsletter that you can buy. I think it's $9.99 a month. I like to take one of those sections out, maybe Dave Crumby, like close your ears, blah, blah, blah for a second. But I like to take one of those sections out and I like to put in instead a letter from the heart where I talk about what's going on with me personally, what's going on with the team, with my family, all of those kinds of things. Because again, people want to work with realtors that they like. So I think it's important if you're going to send a newsletter out that you have one section that's really kind of a personal part where you talk about not only the good in your life, but the bad, right? People want to work with people who are real. They don't want to work with people who everything is always wonderful and awesome because that's not real life, right? So I think you should have kind of that newsletter from the heart section in there as well. So that was essentially everything that I was going to go over with you in terms of working on your database to really make sure that it is a $1 million database. From there, I know that Sam wanted to jump in with a few kind of helpful things that Realvolve can do. So we're going to let him do that. And then we're going to open it up for questions at the end. So Sam, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Thanks, Shay. Yeah, hey everyone. My name is Sam. I'm with Realvolve, and so I have a lot more content to send everybody. Some additional training, some additional resources, and everything. So the recording will be sent out. So if you signed up, if you registered, you'll get that recording. We'll get with Kevin to make sure he gets that uploaded to the group as well. So what we are all about over here is basically what you just heard from Shay. So when it comes to growing a real estate company, the biggest thing that every single agent needs to do is implement systems. I mean, hands down, bar none, it is the most important thing to do. If you are an expert at getting leads and you can't handle the amount of leads in a cost-effective way and actually close all of them, then you're not going to be able to grow, right? So yeah, get your questions in. There is a Q&A box. We do have a few minutes to kind of cover those questions and make sure that everyone is, if you have anything specific, really open up the book. If you have questions about how Shay runs her business, any specifics on the workflows that you saw today, more than happy to kind of get those questions answered for everybody. So a little bit about what you can expect after this webinar as well. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen here. So bear with me. We're marketing babies over here. At least I'm a marketing baby. And so we're putting together better content for everybody. And we've done these with Shay before. And so in terms of in depth into each specific process, what you saw today was an overview of her business. And you were able to kind of see her thought process. And really one of my big takeaways from Shay every single time I speak with her is, it's so incredibly simple what she's put together. I mean, she's doing 150 plus transactions a year, but it's not complicated. She's kept it simple. And in order to keep your business simple, it takes a lot more effort to keep your business simple than to create a giant mess of things, which is what most of us tend to do. So your entire funnel, so social media, we did a session just a couple of months ago with Shay on her social media strategy. Seller contract to close. So how she creates such a good experience. Why do people love Shay? Why is her experience so memorable? Small little things that if you were to implement them without automations, you would forget. I promise you. It's little things throughout the process, throughout the seller process, the contract to close process, that if you didn't have a system like Realvolve to remind you and to say, hey, check this box, chink, check the box, done, customer satisfied. Then you would forget. That's how all of this kind of tends to work together. So, and then finally, Shay's post-close nurture process. So this is only available to next level agents and anyone attending this webinar. So you'll be redirected to a page where you can get a ton of resource. You'll be able to access this. You'll be able to start Realvolve for free. So go ahead. If you don't have a CRM, there were a few of you that don't have a CRM or you're not using one actively, go get started for free. No credit card required. And then one thing you'll see is Navigator. So what Navigator is it's a coaching, consulting, workflow building program for anyone that's like, you're new to workflows, or I want to speed this process up. I want to get to where Shay's at faster. I want to be able to have more time off. I want to be able to do more deals. That's what Navigator is going to be. So talk with us. So all I could say is if you have any questions, we have people that will just sit down with you and answer questions about, hey, how do I build these workflows? What program is right for me? How can I get the most out of a system like Realvolve? So I want to see as many people as possible take advantage of that. So how does Realvolve compare to Follow Up Boss? Jay, excellent question. The biggest difference between these two systems is Follow Boss, and Follow Boss is a great CRM, by the way. Follow Boss is really great for following up on leads. I mean, it's kind of in the name, I guess. And I know they do have some integrations with back-end systems that do something similar to what Realvolve does. So definitely look into that, Jay, if you're using Follow Up Boss right now. But the biggest difference is going to be the workflows that Shay mentioned today. I know for a fact that Follow Boss doesn't have that branching milestone date capability to manage transactions and to manage post close at the same level that Shay is operating. So great CRM, really great, easy to use, great for contact follow up. But as far as a lot of the in-depth operations, that's where Realvolve is going to be a little bit different.
And Sam, do you want to talk about, I think one of the things that I think is really cool about Realvolve is the workflow library, where people can go in and either pay for other people's workflows if they don't want to create the wheel from scratch, or they can go in and find a bunch of free ones. Like, I think I saw the other day, somebody wants to do Thanksgiving pie giveaway. There was like a free Thanksgiving pie workflow in there. So do you want to just talk about those really briefly?
Yeah. And Shay, I'll mention this as well. So first, all Shay's workflows, reach out to her, shay@shayhadda.com. Those are available to purchase if you are a Realvolve user, if you're interested in using this platform. But as far as the library itself, anyone can share a workflow on there. And so there's a lot of different free workflows. Like you're not going to be left alone to try to figure out how to build workflows, but you're going to be able to, have a fresh start, a template, so to say. We have a lot of our own. If you go to our website, go to the workflow storefront, you can see a bunch of the different things in there. What we've put out there is, hey, big workflow for lead follow-up. You've got a dozen workflows, you've got 30 to 40 templates. You can get in there, install it, customize it as you go. But then, there's a ton of free ones in there from people in the community as well. So a lot of really great ways to take advantage of all those resources in the community. Let's see. Different from Brivity, Kevin was asking. Brivity. I haven't heard of that one in a while. And I was in sales over here, so I should know better, but I would say probably it's going to be similar as far as the differences. I know Brivity has different sections for websites and transaction coordination, and there might be some way that they kind of bring all those things together. Realvolve is simple, straightforward workflows, and it's going to do all that for you. So it just depends on your need, Kevin. Happy to have a conversation with you as well if you are trying to choose between the two, or if you're currently using Brivity, happy to help you weigh that out. There we go. Sophie. Yeah, milestone dates, Sophie mentioned to me. So excellent. Shay, anything else? Any closing thoughts?
I don't think so. I appreciate everybody for coming. Dave, do you want to say anything as we wrap up and let everybody go?
No, thank you so much for your time, everybody. Shay, as always, that was wonderful. Thank you, Kevin, for hosting us. Thank you all for taking time out of your day. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Hey, there's Kevin.
Thanks for doing this, guys. I appreciate it. This is awesome. I'm looking at some of the comments come in both here and in the Facebook group. Lots of good feedback already. So thank you, Shay. And thanks to Dave and the Realvolve team. You guys are awesome.
Thanks, guys. And thoughts and prayers for our friends in Lahaina, Maui, by the way. They just got hit by a devastating fire. It looks like they're going to lose the town. And we have customers over there, friends. So, just keep them in your thoughts, please.